Well, I would say that the renovations to the admin block has gone well. I think it would alleviate the issue of the leaking we would have been experiencing in the staff room, the principal's office, nutrition room, and the two classes on the admin block. So there's no challenge with that. The repairs to the bathrooms certainly has to be commended because that is a project that the PTA wanted to get involved in. So at least it will save the PTA the headache of having to look for funds, scarce funds at this time to undertake. So we're happy that the bathrooms and the admin block has had the major repairs during this break.
Everything comes at a cost. And these days, no one profits from the loss, like when a child is forced to trade school day socialization for screen time study, when a disease decides to disrupt our daily routine, and suddenly, every one of us is coming undone, losing loved ones' lives and livelihoods, breath and breadwinners, families and festivals and freedoms. God, we feel like it's too much hassle to be human. We will always remember the years the earth spun quieter, but Mother Nature showed us how the simple act of standing still can wage war on an illness. So may we remember how to be our own army, how it takes cooperation for a community to build immunity, how unity can nurse us back to normalcy. Why stop at one family when we could save all?
Hi, I'm Dr. Adana Grandison, and I'm here to give you a few tips on how to accurately and safely take your blood pressure readings at home. Before taking your measurement, sit in a calm, warm environment. Don't perform any exercise in the preceding 1 hour. No coffee, food, smoking, or even sinus medication in the preceding hour to taking that blood pressure reading. Empty your bladder and bowel. Most readings that are taken at home should be below or at 135 on 85 millimeters of mercury for uncomplicated hypertension. Lower home blood pressure targets might be advisable in persons who have the following conditions: diabetes, chronic renal disease, or coronary heart disease. If several readings are above 140 on 90 millimeters of mercury, make an appointment with your physician immediately. Ensure to take your readings at the same time every day. We advise 2 readings in the morning and 2 readings in the evening, initially to profile yourself, taken 1 to 2 minutes apart. However, once you have established a baseline, you can choose a time suitable to your schedule where you can monitor your blood pressure readings.
Let me begin preparations. It's hurricane season. Let me sit down and reason. Let me secure a nation. Know your shelters, Bajan. Help out one another against vibration. Develop emergency community plans so that we could function. Remove outdoor objects. Make sure that you went to the ATM. Stock up with water. Make sure you clean the guttering lot. What about canned food? Make sure you got some stock up in your room. Make sure you prop up the paling and tie down the roof. Let me start to prepare real soon. Let me begin preparations. It's hurricane season. Let me sit down and reason. Let me secure a nation. Know your shelters, Bajan. Help out one another against vibration. Develop emergency community plans so that we could function.
Hi, my name is Richard Woodruff. Here on behalf of RW Consulting. We are consulting civil and structural engineers. We're here today at the Wilkie Cumberbatch Primary School to basically highlight the some of the issues that have been plaguing the school, specifically related to the structure and some of the water ingress issues. So we're here at what I would consider to be the first phase of the issue with the roof. And as you can see, there's a series of cracks and signs of moisture ingress on the roof slab. It's important to understand that the floor and roof system at this school was made of a very traditional floor system, which they call the Omnia floor system, and it consists of clay beams and clay pots, which are then covered by a concrete screed. So basically, if this is a cross section of the roof slab or the floor slab, it's made up of a series of T-beams, which are of clay. After that, you have another T-section, and this is what you call a clay block or a clay pot. Eventually what happens, there's actually a concrete screed that covers this section. Eventually what happens is that the membranes on a lot of these roofs, i.e. the waterproofing barrier, has deteriorated. You'll get moisture coming into the slab, and basically you'll get a crack that starts to form along the bottom of these floors, and basically that is what falls out of place and is the immediate safety issue. It's not a new issue in Barbados. There are hotels, there are schools that have used a similar system, as it was a new system in Barbados at the time. So there are other instances where sections of this floor have actually fallen out and injured people, which is what we are trying to completely avoid in this instance. Right, so I will show you what we consider to be phase 2 of the issue. If you look at this section, following on from the first phase, the cracks will eventually begin to get a bit bigger, and there is a bulging effect that will start to occur, which eventually leads to very sudden failure. Failure meaning a section of the floor will collapse. So we're standing at what we consider to be phase 3 of the damage. As you can see, this is a significant section of the roof slab that suddenly fell out. This was during school, actually. So the ministry had actually called me to take a visit because there was a loud pop from the roof during class. I arrived maybe, say, 1 hour after the call, and I basically touched the roof slab with a piece of stick, and it suddenly fell out on the floor, and it's a very unsafe situation to be in. If we walk over here, this is basically a remedial measure that was introduced or has been introduced at various times during the life of the structure. The engineers at that time would have seen it fit to introduce some structural steel members that would have basically supported some of the areas that possibly would have been cracking or showing signs of cracks at that time. There are numerous steel beams at first floor and at roof level, and in our view, there's only so much times you can put a plaster on a cut. In our view, in terms of health and safety, we think it's better to completely replace the roof and the floor so that we don't have another scenario of the floor or roof suddenly dropping out onto any of the occupants. One may argue that the cost of replacing the floor and the roof doesn't warrant what we're proposing, but I would challenge anyone to ask, well, what is the cost of a life? What is the cost of injury to somebody's son, somebody's sister, somebody's daughter? And that is the way we're looking at it. It's better to be proactive than reactive with instances like this. Basically, we are proposing to completely remove the roof slab and remove the first floor slab while retaining the existing structure being the reinforced concrete frame, which constitutes of beams and columns, while also maintaining/retaining all of the external facade walls. So we're basically surgically removing the roof slab and the first floor slab, and we're going to install steel beams, which will in turn support a composite floor slab to replace the Omnia floor at roof slab and first floor.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ingrid Burrows, and I'm going to give you some tips on managing your hypertension. The first thing you should do is to decrease your salt intake. You should keep your salt intake to less than 1 gram a day. This is equivalent to about 1 teaspoon of salt every day. Another thing you should do is to ensure that you're getting enough physical activity. You should aim for 150 minutes of aerobic exercise every week of moderate intensity. For example, brisk walking, light jogging, swimming, or running. This equates to half an hour of exercise 5 days a week. You also want to increase your intake of fresh fruits and vegetables. It is advised that you eat 5 servings of fruit and vegetable every day. And the last thing you can do is monitor your blood pressure at home with a digital machine. This is very important as some patients have elevated blood pressures while in the doctor's office while having normal blood pressures at home. This is called white coat hypertension. Also, if you're taking medication for your hypertension and you notice any changes in your blood pressure, you can call your doctor and he or she can adjust your medications to suit. If your readings are too high or too low, you can inform your doctor and he or she can adjust your medications appropriately. I hope these tips have been helpful.
Let me begin preparations. It's hurricane season. Let me sit down and reason. Let me secure a nation. Know your shelters, Bajan. Help out one another against vibration. Develop emergency community plans so that we could function. Remove outdoor objects. Make sure that you went to the ATM. Stock up with water. Make sure you clean the guttering, Lord. What about canned food? Make sure you got some stock up in your room. Make sure you prop up the paling and tie down the roof. Let me start to prepare real soon. Let me begin preparations. It's hurricane season. Let me sit down and reason. Let me secure a nation. Know your shelters, Bajan. Help out one another against vibration. Develop emergency community plans so that we could function.
Everything comes at a cost. And these days, no one profits from the loss, like when a child is forced to trade school day socialization for screen time study, when a disease decides to disrupt our daily routine, and suddenly, every one of us is coming undone, losing loved ones' lives and livelihoods, breath and breadwinners, families and festivals and freedoms. God, we feel like it's too much hassle to be human. We will always remember the years the earth spun quieter, but Mother Nature showed us how the simple act of standing still can wage war on an illness. So may we remember how to be our own army, how it takes cooperation for a community to build immunity, how unity can nurse us back to normalcy. Why stop at one family when we could save all?
My name is Andre Brassett. I am part of the architecture team from Architects Design Group. We were commissioned by the Ministry of Education to look at the Wilkie Cumberbatch School. The Wilkie Cumberbatch School, we are looking at it in 2 phases. Phase 1 being the renovation and expansion of the existing 2-story block, and phase 2 being the expansion of the whole school plant. All right, phase 1 of the school, we were looking at the structural failings of the first floor and the leaking on the roof level of the first floor. So in looking at that, we looked at a holistic view of the 2-story block, And looking at safety, we found that the two-story block only had one means of egress. So in looking at a holistic view of the two-story block, we decided that it needed an extra stair, and this stair was located in the design on the southern side of the property. Phase 1 is basically demolition of the existing first floor structure and the demolition of the roof structure. In the replacement of the first floor and roof structure, we are using engineering concrete structure with intermediate steel beams. The main structure of the two-story block, the perimeter walls will be maintained with only the floor and roof being replaced. The floor and roof system will now be a watertight system. The new proposed steel beams that will support the roof and floor structure will be encased so that it becomes fire resistant. So we contain fire within each section of the school, each classroom, and so that if in the case of a fire, the building will not collapse. So it would give students and staff enough time to get off and clear up the structure. Phase 2 is taking a holistic view of the school, where it was found that both the student and staff complement of the plant had outgrew the existing plant. So what we did was to add an additional floor, and this floor would now house additional staff rooms, student classrooms, staff lunchrooms, staff bathrooms, additional student bathrooms, and labs on the first floor level. Then taking the whole layout of the school now, what we did is we relocated one of the prefab buildings to the eastern side of the property, and then linking all of these prefab buildings back to the existing structures via covered roofs, so that it now made it easier to traverse from one block to the other without going through the weather. Each block is connected by a bridge, so you could get from either block first floor or ground floor through this covered area. The school vision always was also to have a covered assembly hall. So what we did was we covered a portion of the upper level so that you can now have assembly in a covered control area. In terms of phase 1 is estimated to take approximately 6 months, obviously with phase 2 being a future expansion to the school.
I am Andre Jordan, principal of the Wilkie Cumberbatch Primary School. As principal of the Wilkie Cumberbatch School, I have been in consultation with the Chief Education Officer as it relates to the displacement of our students. The ministry officials, other stakeholders, and senior members of staff have toured sites and are currently shortlisting a few. So I want to reassure you parents that your children or your wards will not be disadvantaged in any way as it relates to placement. All avenues will be explored to ensure that the pupils of the Wilkie Cumberbatch Primary are housed comfortably and are not disadvantaged in any way as it relates to the teaching and learning. Further instructions as it relates to face-to-face or blended will come from the ministry in due course. Thank you.